Alright, head gasket. So this time I decided to buy an L-ring head gasket kit. So, and the only reason, because I saw it had this little seal in it that goes on EGR pipe. So I guess what we want to look for is that hologram sticker, that this is an original and it has a serial number, and let's see what's inside. Alright, inside the timing cover gasket, there's a bunch of seals. This one's the intake manifold, and there's little washers, and this is for the water pipe that goes on the head that need to be replaced, and a few other rings that I don't think I used them last time. Okay. Also, these are the exhaust gaskets, and the head gasket itself. So here, yes, an updated one with the metal inserts. In the this is the, try to remember, I think that's the front. That's the back. Alright, so before putting the gasket in, take a bolt and run all the threads just to clean them up, and then use compressed air and just blow these holes clean, and you see there's still a lot of dirt inside there. Alright, so now after that you want to take a clean rag or clean side and use a lot of brake cleaner or anything else and basically degrease this surface. Okay, now I'm going to take the head gasket and I'm going to drop it down like that onto the pins. Okay. Now I need to take the head, wipe the head same as we did here, and then just put the head on top and bolt it down. So before putting the head on, I need to replace this O-ring and install this bracket. So to do that, just need to remove this O-ring. Yeah, you can feel it's it's getting harder. So just wipe the O-ring groove. Okay, it's clean. Now we're gonna install the new O-ring. Okay, and to ease the installation, I'm just gonna put a drop of oil on the O-ring and just spread it over. Alright, and now I'm ready And since I don't have the torque values required, I'm just gonna guess it. All right, I think that's it. Okay, so now we can take and drop all these washers on top. Okay, now need to get a bottle of engine oil, something like that, just the regular engine oil that you use, and a little quart bottle also. Now the note on the bolts. So these bolts work on yield, so it's recommended by Mercedes to use new bolts when you do a head gasket, but you can reuse the bolts, or I'm gonna reuse the bolts. And as Mercedes says, to check the bolts you need to measure from the end of the bolt to the bottom of the head and make sure that this bolt is no longer than 165 millimeters. Originally the bolt comes as 160 millimeters, and as I'm reading here, sorry, yeah, that's about 160 and a half. So they all probably gonna be same, kind of a same length. Yeah, so that's the note. If they are longer than 165, then that's a definite replacement. You need to replace them. All right, now for the bolts installation. So first of all, you need to take a square bottle and apply oil on top of these washers. The reason is because for the torquing, the 55 Newton meters, it's a wet torque, which means you need to apply oil on the bolt and under the head. Okay, So when this is done, alright, so I got all the bolts snugged. Now let's look. There's a little cheat sheet in a kit, and what they're saying is 56 Newton meters, while Mercedes is calling 55, but that's close enough. Alright, so 56 Newton meters, and then twice 90 degrees. And there's an order that you're supposed to tighten the bolts. So I don't think it makes a big difference. Like you can see here, there's an order. It doesn't make a big difference if you hold it like that or you hold it like that. I think I usually hold it like that. Alright, so I like to do 56 Newton meters, that's about like 42 foot-pounds. So let's set it to about 30. I kind of like to run it in steps. And we started from here. Alright, so that was the 30. Now we're gonna go to 42. Okay, so that's 56 Newton meters. And what I like to do, so after it's all torqued, I would like to double check that everything's torqued right. Okay, so 56 Newton meters. Now we need to do the angle, so twice 90 degrees. Now, good idea, if you don't trust yourself, get an there's an angle meter thingy drive, kind of like that. But I think for the discrepancy of the material of the bolts and stuff like that, plus minus 1-2 degrees is not gonna kill ya. So I do that. So I take a yellow paint pen and I mark the bolt straight at 90 over here. And I mark, and I put a mark on the casting, because that's where the thing's supposed to end, because it's 90, 180. And so we run. All right. So got the markings. Now big breaker bar. So you see, all right, and 90 degrees, just even, no heats, no nothing, just even pressure and just turn. Okay, that looks like 90. Alright, so that's the first 90 degrees. Well, let's do the second 90. Okay, so next we need to install this pipe before we get too far. Alright, so I got that pipe installed. Next on the list, we need to put back the camshafts. Now, but before we put the camshafts in, we need to put all the hydraulic lifters in. So let's go find the hydraulic lifters. Alright. So hydraulic lifters, you see this is from 8 to 14. Let's find the side. So 8. So number 8, and this is 14. So these lifters go on this side, and obviously this box 1 to 7. So that's 1, and that's 6, 7. So that goes on this side. Now for the lifters, you want to use a lot of oil. Because you don't want these things to run dry when you start the car. First we'll wipe it. Make sure that the spring works. Alright, so in this manner you have to put all your lifters in. So now I'm gonna start camshaft installation. So first of all, we need to put the crankshaft in a position with 30 degrees before the DTC on the first cylinder. So from a 0 mark, I'm gonna go this way, and careful because the chain is catching. Okay, hold on, that was, can't do it with one hand, too bad. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so I just need to put the chain so it doesn't catch, because turning it backwards it's not kind of recommended, but should be. Okay, come on, where are you? Not. Okay, let's try again. So you see I put the chain over, hopefully it's not gonna catch. And we're gonna go $30. Where is it? It's right there, if you see. So 30 degrees before the DTC. Now the reason for that is that in that position the only valves that are going to be pushed down are going to be the valves on the second piston. So same, it's kind of a position where both camshafts only pushing on a second piston valves. So now I'm gonna position somewhat close both camshafts in that position, and for that I'm gonna have to put the camera on a stand. Okay, so I got that 30 before. Now I need to rotate the camshaft into a position where only the second cylinder, sorry, not the second cylinder only pushes down. Same with this camshaft. I'm gonna rotate, and that's kind of the position. Well, doesn't have to be exact, it's somewhat close position. Alright, now we need to drop in the caps. So we're gonna put the caps number, and okay, pay attention. If you haven't numbered your caps, look on the head and you're gonna see there's a number right here. It's number 1, and down there you're gonna see there's number 2. So basically all the caps are numbered, and same here. If you see, there's number 8. So all these caps are numbered, and what you need to look at on the caps, there's a stamp number right here, 1. Down here you see this 2. So what I'm gonna do, so first we're gonna put cap number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need to find 2, 3, oops, sorry, not like that, sorry, so 2, 3, and this is number 6. So these are the 3 caps that are gonna go first. Okay, now for this side we're gonna have, so if the first one is 8, so it's gonna be 9, 10 and 13. So it's gonna be, that's 9, that's gonna be number 10, and this one should be 13. Alright, so I got 3 on this side and 3 on this side. Now use a lot of lubrication, because you don't want this engine to start dry. So lots of engine oil use on the caps, use on that. Okay, now I just need to check if the bolts have a dry torque or wet torque. Well, it doesn't tell you, so for that matter I think I'm just gonna apply a drop of oil to the bolt. Now what that does, if you're running the bolts dry on the same torque, you're gonna have a less force stretching the bolt. If you're applying oil, so the friction is less, therefore by putting same amount of torque on a bolt, it will apply more force on the bolt. So we'll just put a little drop oil on the cap, sorry, not on the cap, on the shaft. So drop, oil drop, apply some oil. Same with that. Now, so the idea behind this is that since the lobes on the camshaft only pushing on the cylinder number 2, and they should be pointing down like at almost 90 degrees kind of, all the rest is free. So we're only going to tighten the caps 2, 3 and 6, and we're going to tighten it alternating the bolts, so we don't crack the camshaft or we don't snap any bolts from the camshaft being pushed. And we're gonna start from this one. Now I might just start with my wrenchy. So don't run the bolts all the way down. We're just gonna bring them to a point. Okay, just to line them up. So we're gonna apply some, so that actually pushes on it. And we'll start tightening. Make sure everything's even. And okay. Okay, so I think this is close. Didn't slip. I'm gonna make sure it's bottomed all the way down. Double check the position. Okay, that seems to be the position. So now, just gonna put the remaining caps. Okay. Now let's do the next side. All right, so now we need to torque it, and Mercedes is asking for 21 Newton meters. Okay, the torque range, so 21. Okay, there's no particular pattern that we are supposed to torque it, so for that I'm just gonna start in the middle. Alright, so the camshaft bolts have been torqued, and now I guess we're getting to the most interesting part, is setting the basic timing. And as I mentioned in my disassembly video, I managed to jump the chain before I was able to mark it, and I forgot to wash the bolts. Anyway, so now I kind of have to go to the basics and see how tough or how easy is to set up the basic timing and basically set up the timing chain. So for the timing chain setup, I guess there's helpful hints or some kind of a lining up holes, and you will see on each of the shaft flanges there's little holes. They are 4mm holes, and they do fit the drill bits, and this is 5/32, so we'll be using the drill bits as the lining pins. And well, let's start. So to start with, need to set up the crankshaft and a top dead center for the first cylinder, and that's going to be a 0 on the 0 mark. So I'm going to turn the crankshaft, and hopefully this time I'm not forgetting any wrenches. Alright, so now make sure we're not catching anything. Okay, and that's the 0. Okay, so that's the 0 on the crankshaft. Now, for the camshaft, like I said, we need to turn the camshaft and for that now, and on the 0 position, the lobes on the first cylinder cams should be pointing kind of up. Like this one needs to go all the way around, and let's see if I can do that, because I might not be able to. Now, you see, that's what I was talking about. Since the first cylinder is on the top that position, I can't pass the lobes on the first cylinder. So for that, because the valves are hitting the top of the piston, and I don't see my hole yet. So I'm going to have to move the piston a bit down. And this way I should be able no, still not. To go more. Okay, so they went over, and I have still a long way to go till I hit . So there's my hole. Still need to go about 90 degrees on it. Almost there. Alright, now I can see the hole, so we can put my drill bit in, and I'll show you guys what I so if you can see right here, where is it? Yep, so the drill bit, and there's a hole in a flange, so the drill bit goes in, and we need to turn the camshaft all the way so the drill bit lays right on top of this face. Alright, so I'm gonna go a little bit more. Okay, so now the drill bit lays on top, and that's our position. Now the next confusing part is the mechanism for the ignition advancement. So on that we need to drop the chain and we need to pull. So if you see, you can turn it either counterclockwise or clockwise. So clockwise is a completely retarded position, so that has to be in a retarded position all the way clockwise. One more thing that I need to mention is need to install the pin that's holding that chain shoe that the chain runs on. Otherwise this is gonna be sloppy and you might be off by a tooth. So we're putting this thing in. Don't have to hammer it all the way in, just basically so it holds a little bit. Okay, now I'm gonna put on the thing on a chain tensioner, pull the chain and put it on top here. Okay, next we need to set this camshaft also in the same position where we can install the drill bit in, and this is actually not that far. So there's the hole, and we need to push it back. Okay, so that's the basic position, and I will show you guys also that side. So looking from this side, also you can see the hole. It's only one 4mm hole that's there. So that's the basic position for the camshafts, and you can see the lobes on the first cylinder are pointing up. Now I need to not forget to put the crankshaft in the top dead center for the first cylinder, because remember I had to turn it in order to allow me to spin the camshaft. So now I need to go back and put the camshaft. So for that I'm gonna have to loosen up the chain. Okay, I'm looking straight down, so that's the 0. Okay, now I'm gonna do the same, pull the chain up, make sure you put it on. Okay, now the most interesting part is, now we need to put this sprocket. And so the sprocket only goes one way because there's a locating pin. So we need to find, and the locating pin is on top. And of course it would have been easy if I had the markings on the chain, but since I don't, I'm kind of gonna have to guess the location. Alright, so my plan is as follow. So just to make sure that I got it in the right position, I'm gonna reassemble everything, kind of like a mock-up thing. So I installed the cover, and pretty much this is just slides in. I pull the pin that holds this the chain shoe, whatever I call it. So you pull the pin out, you put the cover, and then you slide the pin that holds that shoe in position. Then you need to put the top piece that the chain runs on. This is just, you lift the chain and kind of slides out, put it in. Okay, and now I want to install the chain tensioner. Now with the chain tensioner, let me take you guys over here. So the chain tensioner, what you should do, you should pull it apart, because to install it, you first install this piece, then the inner cylinder, you slide it from behind, you push it forward, and then you install the spring and the cap. Now doing so, there's a little kind of a hiccup that I hit. If you see, there's a retaining ring over here, which to me seems a little bit loose, or I say a bigger diameter. So what it does, when you try to push the thing in, it just kind of locks and it doesn't want to go. And that, the only reason for that is that that retaining ring, or that clip, is a little bit kind of a spread. So let's see if I can knock it through. No. So I might need to it's a little bit too big, and that's, I guess it doesn't have a good enough lead. So if you'd have like a tapered edge or something, tapered, so that the ring would collapse and would go through, but I think this is just a little bit too big for what is it doing. So I'm gonna try and pull it out. Come on. And I'm gonna have to form it a little bit in a smaller diameter. Just basically careful. Just have to go around. Well, let's see what I got. Okay, that's a little bit better. Now if I drop this thing in, because ideally that, okay, so now I can just push it with the finger. Okay, so you bring it in the first position, and this is kind of a locked position. So now you put the spring in, put this inner piece, and now you can see if you push, that inner piece will slide out. So I'm going to leave it at that, remove this back, and I'm going to install this outer cylinder first. And as I recall, it was a 27 millimeters. Yeah, so it's a 27 millimeter socket. Alright, so I'm gonna put this thing in. Okay, you don't have to torque it really hard. So that piece is in. Okay, now I need to install the spring. So that's going to be a little bit of force, because it's a little bit easy when I use the socket now. Where is my? So it's a 10 millimeter socket that fits in here. All right, so what I decided, I pulled the cover off, reinstalled the pin. And now I'm just gonna go 360, make sure that there's no interference between the pistons and the valves, and same time see how that feels. Because the chain tensioner, it's pushing it forward pretty far. So I'm wondering if I should try and reinstall, but before I do that, now I need to put it into DTC. Okay, so there was a 360 that I went over. I'm gonna put the pins back. So that goes in. See, this is what I don't like, that I just can't put, the chain is tight, but I cannot put this in. Alright, let's see. Maybe because I'm not exactly in a zero. Right. Well, what it shows, that's that I'm about I guess I'm about 5 degrees off. If you see that yellow mark, I assume that the yellow mark is the 0, and then the next one is 5, and then 10. So I might be just a tooth off. Okay, I'll have to loosen up this gear and move the chain for a tooth off, and then I'll try it again. Well, I think that's the correct position, as I found out, because if I move this gear by one tooth, then I'm about 15 degrees off on the crankshaft position. So this is the closest position to where it should be. Now the pins line up, I got the 0. Funny enough, if you look on this gear, removable, there's a mark right here, and also there's a mark on the gear, and I think these are the marks from a previous rebuild or something, because I did not mark that. So that's kind of a little bit confusing, but on the other hand, it's kind of a reassuring that I did get this assembled in the right orientation. So I'm gonna try and install the tensioner one more time, and then do a 360 again and see what the results are, and if that's the position, then I think I'm gonna run with that. Well, I reinstalled the chain tensioner, and I'm double checking now that I got the timing right, and this time it seems to be okay. So like I said, 0, you can see the 0 mark on the crankshaft timing. You have to look like that. 0, the pin on this gear, and that's the intake where it should, the exhaust pin where it should, the chain tensioner is there, there's a little bit of slack here as it should. Well, I think that's it. So all I have left now is just I need to remove these screws one by one, apply some Loctite, and torque it. And I think I looked at this is a 10.9 class 7mm bolt, so that tightens dry to about 25 newton meters, and wet to about 19-20 newton meters. So Loctite, that's a dry torque, so I'm gonna tighten it to about 25 newton meters. And this is a 35 Torx, T35 I guess it's called. Alright, let's do this, and then we'll continue. Well, let's put this over here. I have to be careful so you don't drop the bolt, because it's gonna go down, and then you're gonna have to pull all these covers just to get to the bolt. So I use the blue Loctite. Just one drop. And we set 25. Let me check, that's T40 actually. Well, 25 seems kind of a lot. Oh, actually no. That should be fine. Alright, so this is done. Now, just so kind of more relaxed, I think I'm just gonna run this chain at 360. I'm sure it's okay, but just so can be more relaxed, I'm just gonna run the crankshaft, make sure that it's not hitting anything. So just need my socket. Chain gets tightened. Alright, so I think that's the full circle. Okay, so just to mention the chain tensioner. So first you put the outer piece. Recommended to replace those aluminum crush washers. So the outer piece torqued to 80 Newton meters, and the inner piece, or the plug, you torque it to 40 Newton meters. You're probably gonna have to fight a little bit on the spring, but eventually you should be able to get it in. Well, I think that this is okay. Alright, well, let's continue. What's next? So, next step, guys. Today I'll be installing the top timing cover. So obviously you need to clean it up, replace the O-ring, put a new O-ring, inspect this surface. Now this surface is pretty clean, so if the surface is clean, you don't need to apply any sealant on this area. And first, as always, we need to take a clean rag and need to degrease the area and all the mating surfaces. Also degrease the cover. Alright, so now I'm using a Dirco sealant. So now we're going to put 2 dabs in a corner. Now make sure that the sealant doesn't go on the inside, so if you have a little bit extra, you can just reach and clean it up. Alright, now we take the seal and we slide it into the groove. Make sure it's all seated. Okay, and put a little dab in the corner on top. Okay, now you need to apply a thin layer of sealant onto these surfaces. All right, don't go crazy on the sealant, because as you're gonna push it in, it will get squeezed. Okay, now, okay, we put it here. Now we need to get some engine oil. Okay, and so now we need to apply a little bit of oil on top of this gasket. Just a little bit, so, and we wipe it off on so that the cover will slide. So next we need to get the two lower bolts. So there will be a short one on this side and two short bolts. Okay, now we take the cover, we place it down and we slide it into place. Now obviously you're gonna have to push a little bit down to squeeze the bottom gasket, the green gasket, so you can so it would fit in. So now put the two lower bolts and you start tightening the bolts. And as you tighten the bolts, you have to push this down, and you see it went into the pins. And this one. Now just tighten a little bit, do not over tight. Just barely. Now we're gonna put the chain rail. Come on. Okay, so we put the chain rail. And now we're going to put all the rest of the bolts in. And again, just hand tighten. So we have a long one on top. Another long one over here. Another long one on this side. the last one goes in here. And just snug the bolts, don't tighten them. You don't want to squeeze out the sealant. Okay, so that's for the bolts. Now need to install the pin that goes for the rail. Now we need a small hammer. Pull the bolt out, and now we need to measure how deep the thing sits, so when you put the plug, you actually don't push on the pin. Otherwise, if you put the plug and it's pushing on a pin, it's going to try and pull the cover back. Okay, I need something to measure. So yeah, need to go a little bit more. It's not deep enough. And that should do it. Now from the kit, you need to pull a new crush washer. So you get a new crush washer. The old one goes in the garbage. Put a new washer and close this port. So tighten that and you leave this, I don't know, 6 hours, 8 hours, and after that you come back and you torque all the bolts. I can't remember what the torque right now, but later on I will tell you guys what the torque goes here.